All right, guys, here we go. Deck number 2, the starter decks improved. Deck number 2, we're going to look at USA this time. All right, so if we take a look at what we will unlock doing our progression with USA. So the initial deck that I'm using, like I said, will not include any of these cards in it, except for what came with. So the half track is going to be new when we unlock it, which obviously you see I've already done that, but it won't be in the deck. But definitely you're going to want to add this to your USA deck. Super great card. Enemy air infantry unit must retreat. Popular card, definitely meta. Death from above. The starter decks come with one death from above. This will give you a second one, so that's going to be awesome. Death from above is a great card. Unity is strength. Interesting card to be given as part of the progression. This card is not a popular card. It has specific uses, such as in the Soviet tokens deck when you use USA as an ally. But your starter deck for Soviet is going to be missing so many other cards that you won't be able to pull off a tokens deck for a little while yet. So, I mean, this card might still play okay in the starter world or in the earlier on world. I mean, if you got 2 infantry on the board and you can get a +2/+2 out of it, that's pretty good value. But you generally don't see it used. The B-25 Mitchell is a really good bomber. It's getting a bit old in the game, sort of thing, so you don't see it as much as you used to, but it is a really good bomber when you could deploy and deal 3 damage to a random enemy unit when you deploy it. War Bonds, popular card for USA for when people are ramping. So ramping is when you're trying to accelerate your credit growth, so you get 1 credit per turn, and it goes up to 12. Well, War Bonds gives you 2 extra credit slots, so that allows you to jump ahead of credits faster than your opponent. But also, if you're at 12 credits and you use this card, it allows you to go to above 12. So if you use this before 12 credits, you won't go above 12. But if you wait and you're actually able to use it later in the game, at turn 12, for example, you can get up to 14 credits, 15, 16, because you could have up to 3 of these in your deck. So really, it depends on timing. Usually this card will be combined with a bunch of other ramp-style cards that are in the game, like War Machine, for example. And there's usually a good mixture of ramping early to try just to get a good head start on your opponent for credits so you could play more cards, but then also balancing it out with later game ramping so that you can go above 12 credits. You'll be missing a few cards to pull ramp off, but this also does give you a good card draw. So I think in earlier rounds of your cards journey, this card will probably play okay in the USA deck if you want to use it. And then we get the B17 Flying Fortress. This is a staple USA card used quite often, and obviously with ramp it really helps. So if you have this kind of card that gives you 2 extra credits, basically on turn 7 you could be at 9 credits instead of 7 credits, which gives you a big edge to drop this B17, which is basically death from above on a stick. So being on a stick means that it's a card that has like another card built into it. So the B17 Flying Fortress is a 5/5 bomber with heavy armor, which is great stats. But in addition to it, it destroys a random enemy unit on deployment, which is basically the exact same thing as death from above. So this is basically your 5/5 bomber with a death from above on a stick is what we call it. And then your final reward, which will be your elite, is the 101st Airborne. This card is just absolutely amazing. It has Blitz, it has Ambush, it's a 4/3 body. It only costs 5 credits, deal 2 damage to a target in the enemy support line. That means any target in the support line, so you could use this as a finisher if you need to get that last 2 damage to win the game. So this card here, you'll definitely be working into your deck for USA as soon as you unlock it. Obviously only for when you have USA as a main, because it is an elite and you can only use elites in main nations. Alright, so that's a rundown of the cards that you're earning from your journey through the USA progression. Let's take a look at the starter deck. The USA starter deck that I built is a little bit similar to the USA starter deck that comes with the initial load of the game. So across the top here are the initial starter decks, and the bottom are my versions. And I did them in the order from left to right. I did Japan first, which is the previous video. If you haven't seen it yet, go back and check it out. But the starter deck that they give you is USA and Japan, but there's some cards that are not in it, and these starter decks are a little bit dated. Because there have been some changes and some buffs to some cards that make them definitely cards you're going to want to use. And we used USA as an ally with Japan in the last video, so we did talk about some of them in there. But we'll touch on it again in here. So the USACE, giving a tank or infantry +1/+1. It's a 0 cost card, so it does just take space in your deck, but it's a decent card to buff a unit basically for free with that 0 cost to use this order. and give a unit. So if you get a Greyhound out to the front early, for example, you could give it a USACE, and that will let you buff this to a 2-4, for example. Give it a little bit more staying power on that front line. So we're using Japan as the ally, as I said. So Type 93, all friendly units have a +1. This card is just amazing. You're going to want to have all 3 of these crafted as soon as you can. And we do have 2 of them now, because you get 1 of these as part of the Japan unlock when you go through Japan, but you only get 1 as your starter deck, so we're only using 1 in the gameplay for the purposes of this video. But if you did do Japan first and you want to use Japan as an ally with USA like we did here, feel free to throw in a Type 93. I would take out the USACs, get rid of these because they're actually not that valuable. They're decent from a starter perspective, but Type 93 is way better than one of these, as it buffs all units on the board to give them a +1 attack. So you're definitely going to want to do that. All right, so the M8 Greyhound, again, is just that 1/3 body. It's a good 1-drop. Get it out to the front line. A great turn 1 play, and then turn 2 to the front, and gives all your units in the back line a +1 attack. We're using the Awoken Giants to get a little bit of removal off the front line if the opponent gets it. And of course, if you do deal 2 damage and you kill the unit in the front line, this will draw you a card. So that's pretty good. If you can get the card draw engine to go off it, that's great. Card draw is super important. The Akita Regiment from Japan, again, just blitzes out there. For the 2/1 body is not super strong, but the destruction effect of deal 2 damage to a random enemy, super effective. Often giving you a 2-for-1 trade early in the game. Super great card. We're using the T19 Howitzer with USA. This will remove the guard ability from a unit. So getting this down helps you basically finish your enemy off by eliminating the guards. You don't have to kill the guard, but this will remove the guard ability so that you can shoot around the guard and maybe get at those pesky bombers or artillery that the opponent is trying to protect. And in other cases, maybe just getting those finishing blows to the HQ. We're using the 30th Regiment from the starter cards. This is probably one of the better cards here too from the starter perspective. It's the 3 cost, 1 operation, 4/4 body, just a vanilla infantry, but it's got decent stats. So we put that out there for a little bit of muscle. Then we're playing the 11th Infantry. And the 11th Infantry is great because when you deploy, you can fully repair another unit. So you could use another unit to attack in and kill a unit to trade off, and then play this out and heal your unit back to full health again, which is super useful. And so we're going to use the P40 WARHAWK, great target for the 11th, because this does a +3 attack against ground units. So this helps you kill out some of those larger ground units that are harder to deal with, because it'll actually deal 5 damage to a ground unit. Only 2 to another aircraft, or like a bomber or fighter, but the +3 against ground is usually allows this unit to trade up in value, which is great. Especially when you can combine it with the healing effect of the infantry to recover its health back after you do an attack, assuming you don't lose it in the trade. The Stuart is a nice little tank here that often trades up as well. Early in the game, especially going against Britain and USA, you know, you're going to see some heavy infantry, and having the Stuart out there to do +4 attack against the infantry is very useful. Clears guards out of the way a little bit more easily, and just trades up in general against infantry, which is super helpful. We're using the PACK HOWITZER. It's an artillery. Artillery is very strong in general because, as we know, when you attack with artillery, it doesn't take damage back. So you can just mow things down with artillery and not worry about trading your unit or losing the unit in the attack. This is not the best artillery in the game, to say the least, but it is an artillery, so we're throwing that in there to have a little bit of arty power. The 1 health on this makes this really soft. It's pretty easy to remove, but in general, even at a minimum, artillery is a bait for removal, so if you play this down, you're going to suck out a removal card off of your opponent, which you won't be able to use on maybe something else in the game that'll be more valuable later on. So from Japan, we're going to use the Amphibious Assault, so that's some of our removal, targeted removal. Destroy an enemy unit that has 3 or less attack. Speaks for itself. As long as it has 3 or less attack, you kill it with one of these. So super useful. You want to try to save this for killing things like bombers, some of the guards that have lower attack stats, artillery, really good for cleaning those things up that are hard to get at with your other units. ZIPPO, along the same lines as the Stuart, +3 attack against infantry, so we're throwing that out there. We only have 1 of them. These 2 combined, I looked at them at the Stuart and the ZIPPO kind of as a pair, whereas the ZIPPO, a little bit better stats, a little bit more expensive for deployment, 2 operation cost, but it does +3 attack against infantry, which is net the same level of attack as the Stuart, but it also has the same buff against the HQ. So you can pound that in for 6 damage on HQ if you need to as well, which is super useful. So the death from above, like I said, I just have the 1 because that's the starter set that we get, comes with 1. If as you're progressing along, feel free as you unlock cards to swap out cards and adjust the deck accordingly. Definitely putting in another death from above in here would be useful. Again, take out the USACE. It's not that useful. You could take out that card and replace it with a death from above is more useful for sure. Then we're using the Sherman for card draw. So if you get a unit, your US unit to the front line. So this is where we look at units like the Greyhound, super effective because they could blitz to the front line and try to hold that front line. And then later on, backfilling with the larger infantry and keep pushing and pushing pressure on the front line so that when it comes around turn 4 or 5, you could drop your Sherman and get your card draw. USA struggles a little bit for cost-effective card draw, and especially in the starter deck world, mobilization is a special, and you got special delivery, which is part of a different set that you don't get access to with the starter cards. So Sherman is really your #1 USA card draw. And so you really want to, the whole focus of this deck, which is why we have Japan as an ally, is aggression. You really want to push front line so that you get your Sherman value and you just keep the tempo and the pressure going on your opponent. And so to that end, you also got the 7th Regiment, which again with the US theme of their card draw, right? When this card moves to the front line, you get to draw a card. So this guy moves slower. It's infantry instead of a tank. But you can see the cost is about the same as the Sherman, 4 and 2. The stats are different, obviously, because it's an infantry and not a tank. But the effect is somewhat the same in the sense that, you know, as long as you can get this guy to the front line, you draw a card, whereas you'll get your cards right away if you have the front line when you deploy your Sherman. Oh, rookie mistake that happens all the time. Please make sure you have a US unit in the front line. If you have a Japanese unit in the front line, you blitz out your Akita and you're all excited and you drop your Sherman and then you're looking and say, hey, where the hell are my cards? Well, you don't have any card draw because that's not a US unit. You must have a US unit in the front line. I'm going to have another video coming out soon, top 10 mistakes new players make, and one of those mistakes is read your cards. Know what they say so you understand the effect and then you play it at the right time. It's easy to get caught up in the game and forget about these little details because you're planning out all kinds of different possible combinations and strategies. Take that extra second, read your cards, make sure you get the value that you expect out of them. Japan, we're playing the OSAKA Regiment, just a top tier guard, 4/7 body, give us a little bit of protection. If you could get that down beside the howitzer, for example, or your planes, super useful because you want to protect those things if you can so that you get the most value out of them. And then we're looking at the Zero, which is just one of the top tier planes in the game as well. Having that ambush with the 4/4 body is super strong. Deployment, deal 1 damage. So this is 1 damage to anything. So again, this 1 damage can be dealt to the enemy HQ. So you could potentially have 3 damage to HQ with all your zeros if that's what you need to do. But this ping, I find, is really useful for dealing with artillery. Again, you know, you need to kill off a light artillery or maybe ping a bomber to reduce it down. Also, it's useful because remember how ambush works. And if you don't, I have another video. Go watch it about ambush. And, you know, if the enemy unit has 5 health, you use the 0 to ping it down to 4 health. And then it can't attack the 0 because the ambush will kill the unit. And they'll need 2 units to trade. So you can do little tactical maneuvers like that to use that deployment effect to your advantage. Then we're looking at a Blade of the Samurai. And I have to double check now. I think if you did Japan as your first nation, you may have a Blade of the Samurai. If you didn't do Japan as your first nation, you won't have Blade as a Samurai. I'm going to come back to that in a second. And we're looking at the P-51 Mustang next. This plane just got buffed, like I said in the last video. And now on deployment, it deals 5 damage to a random enemy air unit. Super powerful. When they redo the starter decks, which I imagine they'll do eventually later this year, this card here will probably be part of the starter decks because it's just way too strong. It's even in the top tier meta decks right now. Let's take a quick look here at Japan here. So yeah, you're going to unlock Blade of the Samurai. So I put that in afterwards again as a little something that I was doing. So you're not going to play Blade of the Samurai. You're going to play something else. I would actually say that you play Air Superiority. So put in Air Superiority instead of Blade of the Samurai. taking that out and putting it in right now. So when I copy the deck code down below, you'll have the proper deck code. So yeah, Air Superiority is a nice cheap removal. Deal 1 damage to a unit. Japan is a really common nation in the earlier stages of the game when you're down in the lower ranks. And Air Superiority can be played on turn run to kill out these little guys here that blitz in and only have 1 health. And once you get your planes down, Air Superiority can do 3 damage as well. And we have a couple of planes. You know, we have like 7 or 8 planes in the deck, so good chance to get full value out of Air Superiority. So it's a good card as well. So there's our starter deck, guys. Now let's go ahead and jump into the games and see how they played. All right, guys, here we go. Game 1 with the USA starter deck. We're going to jump in here. I'm going to be calling the shots as we play through the game. There's a few games on this roll. Let's just jump in right here. Our first game against EMD20. These are pre-recorded, so I'm calling it as I see it now, almost like a replay sort of fashion. So we get rid of everything except for the 1 drops and the 1 Amphibious Assault so that we have a removal in our hand. We're going against Germany. Germany is an awkward nation to judge at this stage. It's probably going to have a little bit of aggro combined with a little bit of mid-range. We can expect to see you know, a little bit of bounce. The Panzer F2s will be in there that could bounce our cards back to our hand and things like that. So we starts out with the 1-2 infantry, and I think our top play here, the Greyhound, is a great turn 1 card. So we're definitely going to want to drop our Greyhound down and get that moving. So all right, here we go. We finally get the Greyhound down. And that's a great start. We pass it back over. So it doesn't kill the unit when he moves it up, but it doesn't die to the unit either. So it gives us decent value. All right, so he's coming in hot. Oh, he doesn't blitz up with his 3-1 infantry. So he could have blitzed up with that infantry and blocked the front line. So that was a mistake. And you know, I could have, I read this a different way. Like I could have blitzed up with the Greyhound and killed that Type 93 and then forced him. But I think I got an upper hand on him. So I'm going to make him spend credits to move up. Even those are 0 operation costs, but he's got his Type 93 there. So he's got the dive bombing. Takes away the buff of the Type 93. So that's, I think that was a misplay by me. I think playing the Type 93 without actually attacking is not a good idea. When you get buffs, you want to use your buffs. So you don't want to just play it out naked like that. Naked meaning not getting value out of it. So you want to play it on the turn that you're actually going to get value out of it. So I should have saved it. So we get the Awoken Giant. That's awesome. We'll take out the Type 93, draw a card, and then we will ping and ping, kill one and damage the other one. So we'll see what he does here. I mean, he could just start hitting us in the face for 1 damage if he wants, or he can trade off on the Greyhound. Kills the Greyhound. That's great. Saves us some damage to face. We have a pretty good hand here, so I'm actually not too worried. He's only got 2 cards in his hand, so unless he finds some card draw, we're going to really take over the tempo of this game. And you can see we're ranked 24 only right now, so we are playing against other starter decks. As we move up the ranks with our starter decks, we'll start seeing more elites and specials in our opponent's hands, and it'll start to get more challenging. But for now, it's not very difficult. And so we can Amphibious Assault the 34th and just trade off with the SD, kill it. And so our Greyhound now is getting good value. It's attacked 2 units and it's still alive. So we're getting good value on that one. All right, so he does attack strike. So he spent 3 credits to kill our 1 credit card. And he plays down the Fury, the 2-2 Fury. So we're going to go ahead and play our 0 down. No, we're going to play the WARHAWK. And the Akita. Okay. 0 would have been a good play too because that's an infantry. So it still has to move up and then it can attack. But at least with this way, I guess, when he moves up, we could kill it with the plane and then move up our Akita. If he plays another unit down, we hit with our Akita and hopefully Akita will kill his other unit. So this is where I talked about the destruction on the Akita, getting that 2-for-1 value. If we would have played out the 0, we would have just pinged the HQ with the 1 damage because putting the 1 damage on the unit wouldn't have done anything for us. Alright, so the enemy moves up the infantry. That's fine. We're going to kill it. And then he puts down the 2-2 infantry. I think that's the one that gets a buff when he triggers a countermeasure, which there are none in his hand because he has no cards. So I think we use the Akita, and we don't get the RNG on the Akita, so we didn't get the 2-for-1. So we play down our other P40 and we attack and kill that infantry. Some people say, you know, just go face now. You know, we got full control here, but things can spiral out of control if he draws something that gives him card draw or something, right? So we just want to kill his units and then hit face with what we have left. It won't be a matter of time that we take over the board with more tempo. So, you know, kill the unit, play another card. We're at a point now with 3 cards on the board that we definitely could start smacking. And we got the Zippo down there. That's going to do +3 to the HQ. So we got 6 damage to HQ from the tank. And we still only on turn 7. So it's still, you know, credits as well. Like not having enough credits to operate all these units. So that's going to cost 4. Then we could hit with the 2 planes. So that's 6. That's 10 damage. So at this point here, there's not too much that this guy's going to draw to pull him out of this mess. He's pretty much toast. I think with these starter decks, it's key to understand how to trade value and then just keep going after value. And once you basically take over your opponent like we did here, where he couldn't do anything anymore and we just had more cards on the board, then you start hitting the HQ. Be a little bit patient and don't be over greedy going after the HQ. All right, so that's game 1 done. Rank 2 for USA. Here we go. We unlock Death from Above. All right. And we pop up and we're on win streak here, so we get 2 stars towards our rank progression. So we're going to get rid of all these 3 drops. Keep the Awoken Giant. If he blitzes up, we can kill his unit. But we're on the play here with 4 cards. We go first, so and we mulligan into our Greyhound. So we're going to play down that M8 Greyhound. It's a #1 starting card. It's what we're looking for every time. With this deck, you want that Greyhound right off the bat. And you can see we have the Sherman in our hand, so that's a more expensive card at the 4 cost. So, you know, we're going to try to manage our board so that we could try to have the frontline control with our Greyhound when it's time to play the Sherman, so we can get our Sherman value. Getting the Sherman down right on turn 4 is a great value. That's a big tank to deal with, and getting it down on curve is super useful. So he kills the Akita, and because there's no other units on board, the Akita hit the HQ. So we'll play 1 Greyhound out onto the board, and we'll blitz the other one up and hit him in the face for another damage. All right, so next turn we can drop the Sherman, and we very much need it so that we can get card draw. Unless he kills our Greyhound in the front, then we're going to be 2 turns away from drawing. Cool, he plays a plane. All right, not sure if we draw yet. Yeah, I think we Death from Above and just get rid of that plane. Otherwise, the plane could get good value off of us because the plane could just kill a Greyhound, and then we still have to kill it with Death from Above or something, and that gives him a 2-for-1 value, and meaning that it took 2 of our cards to kill 1 of his cards, and that's sort of a value thing you got to calculate. You don't want to give up too many cards versus your opponent. You know, you want to go 1-for-1, or at a very minimum, you want to get the 2-for-1 values in favor. All right, so yeah, we got all our Greyhounds. So we're going to drop the Sherman, get our card draw, which is great. And I think maybe just give a little USACE there. Gets the +1/+1, good value. And just hit face. I think we're not worried right now. Like, he's got a full hand of cards. But right now, the threats, knowing what he could potentially have based on the Germany starter cards, it's not an overwhelming threat right now. All right, so that bomber is definitely what we're going to want to kill it. You don't want to leave a bomber lying around because they could attack you without taking damage back. All right, so he goes ahead and dive bombings the Greyhound. All right, we got our Sherman on board anyway. Sherman will make light work of the bomber, and we don't take any damage back because it is a bomber. All right, so now we're going to go with, well, we'll wait and see what our opponent does, but probably want to get the Zippo, or whatever. Yeah, that's the Zippo, the M4A3 ZIPPO. All right, he lays down a guard. Okay, so, So Amphibious Assault is no good against that one because it's got 4 attack. All right, so he's going to make us trade. I mean, we could put the USACE on the Sherman. Just go wide. Fill up the front line. So this is just called going wide. We're ignoring the guard. We're not going to attack it yet. If he attacks us, it costs him 2 credits out of his 7 credits. And like he'll probably likely want to kill the Sherman, maybe. So, I mean, having him spend the 2 credits instead of us. So we spent our credits putting more pressure on the board while he's spending his credits trading units. And that's a recipe for victory. All right, so now we are going to have to deal with it. So the Akita, unfortunately, hits the HQ again. We really wanted that to hit the unit, one of the 2 units. So we're going to have to trade a lot into this tank. He's getting good value off of it. So we had to attack with 3 units, and we lost 2. So that tank gave him a lot of value, and it cost us a lot of credits. So we're really hoping now at this stage that he doesn't have a lot of gas left in his hand. I mean, he's got, what, 7 cards in his hand, and we only got 2 in our hand. And the Awoken Giant's only useful if he gets the front line. So right now, looking at the board, we kind of want our Greyhound to die to something else so that the 5-1 tank would move up and we'd be able to get our Awoken Giant value. I'm not sure. So he does that to the infantry, which I don't understand why he did that to the infantry when the tank can blitz up and attack. So we got Amphibious Assault to deal with the bomber. We hit face with the Zippo. We kill the tank and we move up the infantry. Alright, so I mean, we're hanging in there pretty good considering the card disadvantage we're at here. I mean, he's got so many cards. Lays down another guard. Zippo could kill the guard pretty easily. So, huge misplay by our opponent here. I don't know why he puts the bomber on the other side of his HQ. He really should have put it beside his guard so that he could protect it. We top deck the Sherman, gives us more card draw, very important card draw that we need. We're able to just kill the bomber. If he would have put that beside his guard, he would have changed the outcome of this game just by putting that bomber beside his guard. Huge misplay. And that's just newbie stuff, right? Not understanding the value of these cards. Bombers are so valuable, which is why they're more expensive to deploy, more expensive to operate, and you want to protect them. It costs a lot of... Same thing with the artillery here. See, he lays down an artillery. That is huge value, those artillery. You want to keep them alive. And he puts the plane beside the guard. See, the plane, the fighter plane, is okay to put away from a guard because it trades. So if I attack the plane, I'm going to take damage, right? And the plane's going to take damage when it attacks. So it's kind of even that way. But the artillery, when you attack with it, it doesn't take damage. So you want to keep it alive as long as you can. It's such good value to have your artillery stay alive. So put your artillery by your guards, guys. Put your fighter planes wherever, but prioritize putting bombers and artillery beside your guards. All right, here we go. 1 health left on him, and I mean, this just turned around. The Sherman value we got, that last Sherman, was massive. And realistically, the misplays there with the bomber and the artillery changed the game. If he would have guarded those 2, he would have got extra attacks out of them and would have really turned things around. So that's just a rookie mistake that you guys won't make because you're having the privilege of learning this stuff from me watching the game here. So now you know. All right, so we keep the Greyhound, of course. We're keeping the P40. The reason is we're going against Britain. If this guy's playing Brit Air, meaning he has like bombers, a lot of early cheap bombers, the Warhawk's going to block the bombers from hitting anything on the same line, so he'll have to deal with the plane. And likewise, if he starts playing cheap guards and the heavy infantry that British has, the Warhawk trades up with that +3 damage against ground units. So the Warhawk's not bad to keep in that opening hand. Kind of sucks getting 2 Awoken Giants because Britain is a really slow nation. They don't come at you really hard and fast, so you're not likely to lose the front line unless they go first and you get a bad draw. So those Awoken Giants are kind of painful to see, but hopefully we'll get some other draw going so we can fill our hand up with useful cards. That's one thing you don't like Awoken Giant. I mean, and I don't particularly like it, is that it's so situational. You know, the opponent has to be in the front line, and only if you kill the unit do you get your card draw. All right, so he's got Resolute Defense, so he's buffing his guards with a +1/+3. Uses for the king and kills our Greyhound. All right, so we got a couple of units that do increased attack against infantry. So we're going to lay down the Zippo. So now we got the Warhawk and the Zippo, both doing plus damage to ground units. And neither one of them at this point in time dies to that guard. It takes both of them to kill the guard, but we don't die to the guard. At least not yet. You can see our card getting touched. He's reading it, to floating, and to see what it's all about. Find out if he's about to kill our plane or not. Who's his ally? I don't think we've seen who his ally is yet. It's important to know what nations your opponent's playing as soon as you can, as soon as they reveal it, the ally, who the ally is, and it's just important to know so that you can kind of plan what cards they might have. All right, so he does that play. That's pretty good play. Buffs his other guard to a 3. Unfortunately, we top decked Amphibious Assault, which destroys that thing because it's still only a 3 attack. So it just killed the buff. That was a nice top deck. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck as well in this game, and that just shined right there. Otherwise, we would have still killed the guard, but we only would have killed one guard, and he would have killed our plane because the 3 health on our plane would have traded, and we only would have had 1 health left on our Zippo. But having that order was definitely useful. All right, so he's coming out with the Hurricane, and he just goes face. I'm telling you guys, greed, not understanding the value. So we go ahead and we're going to hit face, and we're going to hit face. Because right now we win the face race. So if he wants to face race us, we're doing a lot of damage with that Zippo in the front line. So he's got to kill the Zippo. All right, he lays down the Airborne and puts down a guard. No problem. I mean, he needs to kill our things. He's really in trouble here if he doesn't start killing us. We don't even care about that guard over there. He's left his HQ exposed. We don't give 2 craps. He guarded a unit that has smoke screen. So smoke screen means I can't attack it anyway, so he didn't need to guard it. But then he attacked with the plane, so that killed the plane anyways, and now the guard's in position. So maybe he planned it that way, so it might not have been a misplay. So we can do that. Too bad we don't have more credits to put the healing down, because now he can definitely kill our tank. Okay. Let's see what happens here. So we have a Sherman. We can draw more cards if we have a US unit in the front. Feel like our Zippo's going to die. All right, so he comes out with the tank. That ate up all his credits. I'm going to kill the guard and then heal the Zero. This is great. That tank can't kill the Zero. And the reason it can't kill the Zero is because it only has 2 health. He needs to have more than 4 health to be able to absorb the attack of the Zero and survive the ambush. Oh, he went for the Zero anyway. Oh, major misplay. If you're watching me, Chinese name player that I don't know how to pronounce, go and watch my video on ambush. That was and I even give him the emote. That was a mistake. Well, there you go. There's the demonstration of what I've been describing. Only 2 health, couldn't cover the ambush. I don't think that cost them the game. I think we still had the right cards in our hand to control the tempo for the rest of the game. But I just did a misplay. I should have put the Greyhound out in front and I would have done 5 damage. I played the Greyhound last because I didn't factor in my credit count. So take your time when you're playing. I'm obviously just playing too fast there. All right, so we're going to drop the Amphibious Assault, kill that guard, finish him off anyway. Doesn't change the outcome of the game, but if I would have lost by 1 health, that would have been really painful. So, kills the Greyhound, and we just got to kill this guard and finish him off. There we go. Done. GG. Well, our opponent learned a little lesson about ambush. All right, here we go. Next game. Level 4. USA rank 4. So obviously the Japan video was a bit shorter because we got credit for the tutorials. Whereas for USA, we're going right from rank 0 to rank 7. So we get a few extra games in, which is awesome. All right, so we got our Greyhound. I don't like my mulligan there. I should have got rid of the 11th Infantry there as well. To try to get another lower cost unit, like an Akita or something. But we are going against Britain. So Britain's typically slow, like I said. All right, so these games are live, all one after the other, guys. I'm not, I'm not picking and choosing the games to show you. I'm just showing you all the games. Out of all the 40 games, I probably only lost about 4 or 5 games. And really, those losses start happening later on as we rank up higher. So you'll see in the last 2 starter decks, I show you where the losses start coming in because we start playing against some guys with a lot of elites and stuff and cards from the other sets that they bought. All right, so they lay down the guard. We got a British-Soviet deck here, so that's interesting. It's interesting because you don't know what they have at this stage in the game. When you're playing at top of the ladder, like with my main account, and I'm playing ranked play at the top of the ladder, I know what people have. You know what cards to expect. But right now, at this stage in the game, you have no idea what to expect. All the cards they have is random from pack openings and stuff like that. So you really just have no idea what they got. So you're just kind of hoping and guessing that you're not going to run into certain things. All right, so he lays down that artillery, and it's behind a guard. Well played. That's what you want. You want to guard your artillery. We don't have any way to get at it right now, but we do have our zero in our hand. So next turn, I think we just need to go wide here. I don't think we want to attack anything. Make him spend credits attacking. We're going to buff up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and attack that infantry. It's not a bad trade because we do get, we do survive it, and so we kill it. And we'll get 2 for 1 on our Greyhound. All right, so he kills the Type 93. That's common. I mean, that's definitely the bait for the artillery, so he doesn't have the give the buff to all our units. I say we could have just played the 11th Infantry before as well, but that does have a passive effect, the deployment effect rather, to heal another unit. So if we can save it, it's good to get value on that. He plays the Akita Regiment, which gives +2 to his HQ. That's fine. So here we go with our 0, and we use that deployment effect to destroy the artillery. So that's great value right there for that deployment effect. That's what makes the 0 such a powerful fighter, and also why I explained earlier about the 1 health artillery, why they're a little bit weak, because the reason they can get killed so easily by a 0, a bloody sickle. There's just a lot of things that kill it so easily. All right, so we're running out of cards here. It's a bit worrisome. And I'm pretty sure that we need to get some Shermans here. We do. Oh, look at that. Top deck's a Sherman. So are we going to play that right now? I like that card right now because the way the board looks, that 4/4 tank is valuable. And, oh, and we get another Sherman. So what are we going to do? Just go wide with the Akita. We don't know what this guy has in his hand, and he's got a lot of cards. And Britain has a lot of strong cards. There's the Lancashire Regiment as a 5/6 body. There's a couple of stronger guards, which he may or may not have. We don't know yet. He's only been playing the 1/5 guards so far, which are pretty weak guards. They're just more of annoying. They're like having little mosquitoes fly around your head the whole time, and you just got to swat them out of the way. That's what these 1/5 guards are like, unless they get buffed. Oh, so he's got the Soviet 3/4. So that Soviet 3/4 does extra damage to a unit with Blitz, which won't affect us really, because none of our units are that big with Blitz. We can go get more card draw, just fill our hand, because we just want to keep having cards to fill the board. All we want to do at this stage, because he's got all guards down, and we got all pretty beefy units, even if he had a carpet bombing, which he's not likely to have at this stage in his cards career, we definitely want to fill the board up so that we can force the good value trading on these guards that he's laying down. Now, he just played that guard in the wrong spot. He should have put it between 2 other guards so that he would have gave the +1 and +1. That unit there, the top left one that he just played, the deployment is to give a +1/+1 to 2 adjacent ground units, only to tanks and infantry. And he put it on the end. If he would have put it in between 2 other ones, he would have buffed 2 units instead of just 1. So a little misplay there for getting buffs out on his units. All right, so we're trading. We got AWOKEN GIANT value there, which is really nice. And we're just going to fill up our support line again and get ready for our next wave, our next push. Now, we know we only have 1 more Sherman in our deck and 1 more 7th Regiment, so that's the only card draw we have left. So hopefully, yikes, he plays the Coastal Howitzer. No, that's not the Coastal Howitzer. What is that? It's a coastal gun. That I remember. It has a side effect to it when it attacks. It does some kind of, it does pinning or additional damage or something. I can't remember. So we're going to want to kill that artillery. You always want to kill artillery. We need to get past that guard and that guard to kill the artillery. How do we do it? Let's see if I come up with a way here with 9 credits. So we let Akita lead in with Akita. It hits the artillery. Fine. And we know that the Stuart will do +3 or +4 to ground to the infantry. So, all right, we're doing a lot of math here. And we got Amphibious Assault. I mean, we have a lot of ways here. It's just about the math, right? 20 seconds left. Doing all the math. Sometimes my math is a little slower. And math only allows us to hit it with the 0. So we have to trade our 0 in. on the artillery, but we cleared his board, and we still have 2 tanks on the board, so that was a really good turn. Definitely liking that. He plays another guard. That's the thing with Britain early on, especially. There's so many guards. That's really what people lean on, and so you really got to just play the tempo until you can get an advantage and take over the board. See, the good news about all these guards is they have really low attack stats, so we're trading into them at a really high value. So we have a Sherman in our hand again, but we have a lot of cards in our hand, so we gotta make sure we have room for more draw. There we go. We lay down our OSAKA and our Sherman, and yeah, easy trade there. We can kill his other guard, and we're still alive. So the Stuart survives that attack. Good trade. Getting good value out of the Stuart. He's killed 2 guards now. And that's just a huge tempo when you can... Okay, so now he plays the Sunderland. So he has breakthrough cards. So this guy's gotten some breakthrough packs. So this is the last expansion that came out, the Sunderland. To start your turn, he draws a card, and I think it deals damage to our HQ or something. Is that what it does? So misplay. He just exposed his bomber. So just like the last game, he should have put that infantry on the outside to protect his bomber. I mean, there's no way we're letting that bomber survive a turn because of its passive effects. And we go ahead and lay down the Zero and ping the tank. And we move up our OSAKA so that we could give a guard to our 2 tanks. This forces him to have to fight through our OSAKA. And he only has 4 damage on board, so he doesn't even kill it. So we'll be able to get good value off our OSAKA here and use our other tanks to clean up and hopefully start hitting face soon. It's starting to look good. All right. So he attacks, and that Soviet infantry gets a +1 attack every time it takes damage. So it's a 3 attack now. All right, so we got a good board. He's got 4 cards left in his hand, so unless he pulls a convoy, Soviet doesn't really have any draw at this level, so really we're looking for is that if he gets a convoy, he can get 2 more card draw. Puts down the fighter. I can't remember what that one's called. I can remember, but I can't pronounce it. It's a Soviet word. And another guard. And fully repair all ground units, so that's annoying. That's really just annoying. Alright, so we got the P40 WARHAWK is nice. Does the plus. We got 2 of those in our hand. So we hit with the OSAKA. We're going to heal the OSAKA back to full and back to a 4-7. So that's great. Now we just got to figure out what we want to kill here. So we could trade. We don't die. Our Sherman kills his guard. And then we start working the 1-8 guard. We want to expose his HQ soon. Put down a WARHAWK because of the +3 damage the WARHAWK has. And then we don't bother attacking with our last credit. We don't get value off it because we don't kill anything. So we're going to force him to trade us. He got a convoy, so he's going to draw some cards. We have a nice board here. I mean, nothing. The tempo swung a lot. I'm not too worried about anything at this stage. And we have a lot of cards in our hand. So he gets the RAF. That's a nice special. That's a staple Britain card if you're playing British that you want to get unlocked eventually. So he takes out a WARHAWK. That's a good play because of the buff it has against infantry. He's trying to take out things to protect his infantry the best he can, I guess. He gets a good trade on the Sherman. And a nice attack there on the other Sherman. So now that's got a 4 attack. So now we get the T19. A little bit late. Would have been nice to have that earlier because that would remove the guard from the guard attribute from the unit. Alright, so we put down another OSAKA, move up our OSAKA, and we're finally able to start hitting face. So now I think we either put down the 219 or we attack with the 0. The advantage of putting down the T19 there would have been if he plays another guard, we could remove the guard and just hit face and pretty much win the game almost here. And he does have another guard, so T19 might have been the better play. You can see I'm mousing on it there thinking, should have played the T19, right? Especially since he just put a Red October on that guard. Now it's a 411. So we're definitely wishing we had the T19 down right now. Alright. So he's attacking. He kills the first OSAKA. We're just going to maybe push up our other OSAKA. Alright, so that could kill the plane. we use our Amphibious Assault. Let's call it AA for short. Kill the plane out of the way. And push up. I'm not feeling like we're going to want to do too much attacking here, because we know that the T19 will remove the guard ability of that card. So unless he places another guard on the other side of the HQ, which is what he should do. If he gets another guard, put it on the other side of the HQ so that it's going to be protected. But there you go. Gives that another +2. He doesn't have naval support because he'd be able to make that a pretty strong offensive card, but the T19 takes away the guard. Like, he has no hope. So he probably saw that and surrenders. Good game. Good win. Alright, so we unlock the war bonds. We're level 5 with USA. Alright, here we go. So, no Greyhound in our hand. Then we drop the 0. Drop the 11th Infantry is what I would think here. Against Britain, we want to find a Greyhound. So, I mean, we should even get rid of the AWOKEN GIANT, realistically. So we keep the AWOKEN GIANT just in case. Early case Britain, there are tanks and stuff that could be playing, but nothing that has blitz, so I don't know. The AWOKEN GIANT is probably not needed. And we top deck the Greyhound, so that's textbook right there. That's beautiful. Put that down. Always the first card we want to play. So we have a good curve here. Curve meaning that we have cards that we can play to use up the maximum value of our credits on every turn. So that's what it's meant by playing on curve. And so we have a really good good hand here to play on curve. So we're just going to keep laying down units. Again, we're going against Britain. It's like third game in a row against Britain, isn't it? So there's slower games against Britain because they're always slowing you down with these guards. And maybe we'll find our T19 a little earlier this time and help deal with these guards. But for the most part, when you're playing against Britain, it's going to be a slower game. Very control-oriented. So we're going to play down the T19, and we just found it. Look at that. And we'll move up the Akita. Akita's a great card here again. The destruction damage that it'll do. I mean, if he attacks it, we're going to get a value of 4 damage out of it, which is fantastic for a 2-cost card. So here we go. So again, Bullock Regiment, and heals the HQ for 2. That's fine. All right. So the Akita. Akita bounces back and hits him. So that's 4 damage off the Akita into the guard, which means our T19 will kill it next turn. All right. So our T19 can do a lot of damage now. I mean, if we get the 2 Greyhounds, so you can see the buff. Hit the Bullock Regiment maybe instead, and then just kill the guard with our Greyhound. That's good value. Now when the Bullock attacks our Greyhound, it will die. And I looked at the USACE there, but if we use the USACE on the Greyhound, all that does is make it a 3/3, which means it still dies to that infantry unit, so there's no point putting a buff on it to just die. So save the buff for later. We can use it on something else. If that Greyhound dies, which it probably will, we put our other Greyhound out to the front and just get our 3 attack back on our artillery, hopefully. So you're always trying to think ahead of what you're going to do on your next turn, but at the same time, be ready to change that plan based on what your opponent does. That's a common thing for me, is I get stuck in the mind of what I was going to do, and then when the opponent plays, I don't change my plan. It's important you reevaluate. So they just played a 2/2 tank there to draw a card. I mean, there's really not much to worry about there. They're British Germany, which is interesting. We're only at rank 23. I'm not concerned about too much of what Germany has to offer there, but definitely going to expect that they'll have some bounce. Oh, so he's elite. He's got the Pioneer Company. Every order in his hand will cost 1 less while that's on the board. We top deck is 0. That's great. We'll use that and ping the Bullock Regiment. Kills it. It's perfect. So there, maybe what we should have done. Oh, we did. Good. I came back to do it before hitting end turn. Yeah, use the USACE, because now it's a 3/3, which means it survives the attack from the 2/2. So that was good. That there, it made sense. Make our Greyhound last a little bit longer. I was looked like I was about to hit end turn without doing it, and then I saw it. So it was a good catch. It's really interesting to watch your own games back afterwards. Like I said, this is pre-recorded. I played the games out, and now I'm just commentating them. And it's really interesting to watch how you play. You can learn a lot from it and actually make yourself a better player. So if you can, record some of your games and then watch them after, and you'll see more clearly what you had for options, and maybe you would have seen how you could have played something differently. But right now, if he can't kill that Greyhound and we get our other Greyhound into the front, we're doing a lot of damage. Alright, so he's got the Panzer 35, which will have a 0 operation cost when another infantry is on the board, when you control another infantry. So he's got his Pioneer Company down, so that triggers the Panzer 35 to have 0 op cost. So he can attack the Greyhound now and kill it with those 2 tanks. So our Greyhound gets a 2 for 1. That's fantastic. And we can move our other Greyhound to the front now. He has 3 credits left. We're going to go ahead and push up, and I'm feeling like this is a good chance to take advantage of the board tempo. And I just screwed up there because I had 1 credit left, and I noticed it after. I went too fast and I left 2 damage on the board because I did not attack with the Greyhound in the front line. I was too focused on the Greyhound going to the front and buffing the back line, and left 2 damage on the board. So if we lose this game by 2 damage, it's because of that misplay. Alright, I don't know what he has in his hand, but he's obviously not feeling very good about it. So here we go. We get the W. Nice. Rank 6. 1 more game with USA. And there's our B17 Flying Fortress with the death from above on a stick. Nice. Alright, here we go against Senior Osito. We got the Greyhound in our hand. That's great. And we've got... Alright, so we got the Greyhound, the M8 Greyhound, the T19 Howitzer. Alright, so there's the, so I did use the Samurai, Blade of the Samurai in the deck here, I guess. That's I probably, I don't know when I put it in, but makes me a liar because now I have that in the deck. But it's the first time we see it out of all these games. So it really hasn't been a function or a factor. But like I said, if you did do Japan first, like per my recommendation, if you did do Japan first as the beginning of the game, then you can substitute in the cards that you've earned by unlocking them. Don't get bogged down by the fact that I'm just using these starter decks. I mean, the reason is we don't know what you're going to get randomly from packs, but we do know that you're going to get from unlocking the progressions because everybody gets the same thing. So if you got that Samurai, throw it in there. It's an awesome removal card. So that was good. He put down the Warhawk, and we took care of it with the Greyhound and the Type 93 to buff that artillery. That was just a lucky combo to have in our hand right away. Akita to the front and artillery to the Sherman. So for him, he must have a really bad hand or just doesn't understand the value of the Sherman. Playing the Sherman down naked right there on turn 4 and not getting card draw is really costly in terms of the long-term strategy of the game. But he may not have had anything else in his hand. And maybe he was just thinking getting a 4-4 tank was what he needed in order to try to get some tempo. But really what he has to do is kill that artillery. At least get rid of the cards that are buffing that artillery. He's definitely hurting until he gets rid of that, because we just keep mowing down every unit he plays. We're just going to kill every unit he plays and hit face with the Greyhound until he starts killing us. He's got to find some answers. Now we got that Warhawk down of our own. So he's doing 4, plus he does 3 more damage. That's 7 damage against any ground unit. So any big tank he plays at this stage, Germany has a lot of really big tanks, 5.5, 5.6 tanks that he can play right now. And that Warhawk takes care of them. Unless he plays the Panzer I want to say F2. It might be Panzer F4, F2. But it's the one that retreats a unit, so he could send the Warhawk back to our hand if he has that ready. I think it's Panzer F2. Okay, so he plays the Panther, I think that's the Panther A, which cannot be targeted by enemy orders, but it can be killed by a Warhawk. So, bye-bye. Or, well, we have the Samurai in our hand as well, so we could Samurai and not trade our Warhawk. But if we Samurai, that's all our credits. So that's the question, right? Do we just use the Samurai, and that's the end of our turn, and we save our plane, or do we hit with our plane and be able to do more? And then, as I just said, you can't target it with orders, and I just tried to, and I realized it after the fact. So the Samurai is not an option because of that. So there, just keep killing his units. Very tempting to start attacking the HQ, but we just want to keep adding units to the board and killing his units. until we get that tempo advantage where we're like, okay, now I can hit face and not worry too much about the units because I got the upper hand. All right, so he's got the Greyhound dead. All right, that guard is nice. We can guard our artillery. And we're going to put the guard right in the middle. So now we guard our Type 93 and our artillery. And we can move the infantry up. And we could attack the tank maybe. We don't need to attack the tank with the artillery. So here, oh, that's a misplay if I attack the tank. I did attack the tank. If he attacked the infantry, the tank would have died anyway. So I could have hit face for that too. I mean, the only risk is that if he had another answer for the infantry, then the tank would have a higher health. And so we got a lot more reach for dealing 1 damage than if we had to deal the full 3 damage. But realistically, I think I should have hit the HQ there and not worried about the health level of that tank. I think the trading value is going to be sitting there on the infantry anyway. See what he comes up with. Does he have an answer? So that's a decent infantry unit, but it's slow. So he's got a big body down. But again, it's a slow unit because you got to play it and then it can't move until the next turn. And we have 2 11th infantries in our hands, so we could heal our 6-1. So we go ahead and heal him. I wonder, if we move up our OSAKA, we expose our artillery, and I'm not sure if we want to do that. But our OSAKA also has a lot of offensive punch. So, I mean, we may not be worried about preserving our artillery at this late stage of the game. The artillery has done his job and given us a lot of value. So at this point here, we're more concerned about winning versus not losing, which is a clear distinction. Like, you got to have that strategy in mind. Like, what stage of the game do you go from making sure you're not going to lose to knowing that you can make your moves and try to win? Because you can't just play defense the whole game, right? So there we go. We get the win. He had nothing to blitz out and kill those big attacks. And that's a GG. And that's it. That's USA level 7. And that's all she wrote for USA. So that is your USA improved starter deck. And we get the 101st Airborne. Fantastic card.